How much honey can you actually make macroing in Bee Swarm Simulator? 1 trillion? 2 trillion? Those are rookie numbers compared to what we're gonna be doing today. I'm gonna be teaching you how to make 6 to 7 trillion honey an hour by macroing. We're gonna be going over the hive composition, the amulets, and everything else you're gonna need to know to how to make that much honey macroing an hour. This guide is also tailored towards in-game players, but if you're lower level, you can still watch and add some things to your hive. Let's get right into it. Let's start off with the most important part, which is your hive. Your hive is gonna be what makes you a lot of your honey. So if you have a bad hive, you're not gonna be making a lot of honey. We're gonna break this up into 2 categories: bees that are needed and bees that are not needed, and then some that are recommended. First, let's start with the bees that you actually need. First off, the basic bee. You need that 1.2 times pollen. That is essential. Next is the bumblebee. That 1.1 times capacity is huge. The more capacity you have, the more honey you're gonna make and the higher balloon blessing. Next, we're gonna need cool bee for that 1.1 times blue pollen, since you collect all of your pollen from blue flowers. Next, essential bee is looker bee for that 25% critical power. Critical power is absolutely crazy for gains and is absolutely essential to be a blue hive. Next is stubborn bee for the 15% ability token lifespan. This helps your character pick up tokens while you're macroing so they don't despawn. Next is bubble bee for that 1.25 times bubble pollen. You collect most of your pollen from bubbles, so the more bubble pollen equals the faster you fill up your balloons. Next up is bucko bee for that 20% field capacity. Next is commander bee for that 3% crit chance. The next bee is not essential, but highly recommended for the white pollen and the haste and the token link for helping you pick up tokens. If you don't choose to use this bee, I would put in a tadpole bee or a buoyant bee. The next bee is diamond bee for that convert rate. Convert rate is crucial because the faster you can empty your balloon, the faster you can get back in the field. Next up is 4 music bees. I recommend getting 4 of them for the focus, melody, and token links. They're all great abilities, and 4 of them just seems like the perfect amount for me. The next non-essential bee is ninja bee. If you can get a toy drum with bee ability pollen and haste, you do not need this bee. But if you don't have those, I would highly recommend it. Next, we're gonna move on to mythical bees, and this is gonna change depending on how much you fill and how much you don't fill. So personally, I keep 19 buoyant bees and 11 tadpole bees, but this varies per person. If you have problems with underfilling, then I would recommend getting more tadpole bees and getting less buoyant bees. So think of it like this: buoyant bees is basically all the balloons on the field, and you have to fill up those balloons to make honey. And the tadpole bees are the bees that actually fill up those balloons. So the more tadpoles you have, the faster the balloons fill up. So you really just want to balance these 2 bees correctly. And for me, 19 buoyants and 11 tads is good, but I also macro with other accounts. So if you solo macro, I would get 12 to 13 tadpoles and 17 to 18 buoyants. Really tinker around with these bees because it's different for everybody. Next bee I would say is get a fuzzy bee if you don't have people that have fuzzy bees, or if you don't have a fuzzy alt. But if you have those, then you do not need a fuzzy bee. Get another buoyant or tadpole. For event bees, we have bear bee for that 10% pollen and the bear morph ability, which is absolutely overpowered. Next up is not required, but highly recommended if you put in the effort to actually get the drives, which is digital bee, because if you're boosting with digital bee with drives, it's incredibly overpowered and it can get you a ton of pollen. Also, if you use certain macro patterns that collect digital bee tokens, when he has a lot of drives, he can collect so much pollen. So as long as you actually take the time to get the drives, digital bee is completely worth it. But if you don't want to do that, then do not get digital bee. He will not do anything for you. Festive bee is next for that convert rated hive, super handy, and festive gifts. Gummy bee for that honey per pollen, because honey per pollen is a really good stat. Some people use puppy bee with the reindeer antlers for the extra capacity, but I don't really choose to run that. I'd rather put a buoyant or a tadpole instead. But like I said, mess around with this, see if it works for you. Next up is tabby bee, absolutely an essential bee, probably one of the best bees in the game. So that's the hive composition. Really play around with your bees to see which ones are good for you, because everybody is different. Also, another important thing is to make sure every bee is gifted, every single one. The bees get a lot more powerful whenever they're gifted, and they have special abilities like surprise party and baby love that are essential for macroing. So if you don't have all gifted bees, really make that your main focus. Next, let's talk about amulets. So for your supreme star amulet, you're gonna want blue pollen, convert rate, critical chance, and bee ability pollen. And also for your supreme star amulet, you're gonna want pop star and guiding star or Star Shower. They both grant capacity bonuses, so it doesn't really matter which one you pick, but Star Shower is just a little bit better. Next is your Ant Challenge amulet, which you're gonna want critical power, critical chance, blue pollen, white pollen, and pollen. This is one of the easiest amulets to get, and this is probably one of the first ones I would get because it has pretty good stats while being pretty easy to get. It can be a little annoying running the challenge over over and over again though. Just take your time and eventually you'll get there. Next is your moon amulet. I would get honey per pollen and white pollen, which I don't have. I have bond from treats, but I would recommend getting white pollen and honey per pollen. Next is the stick bug amulet, which I don't have a 5 out of 5 for. Really the only stats you need per se is blue pollen, convert rate, and blue bee attack. If you have those 3 stats, you are pretty much set on your stick bug amulet. A lot of the other stats don't really matter that much. Next is your stump amulet, which is pretty simple, just convert rate and goo, and that's pretty much it for that. It's a pretty slept on amulet, but it's also important. And finally, the cog amulet. Probably the most avoided amulet because of how annoying it is to get, but if you actually get a good one, it is really handy. It's probably the second best amulet. On my silver cog amulet, I run bee attack, blue pollen, bubble pollen, and instant blue conversion, which is a perfect silver amulet. This is a very, very, very important amulet. Do not sleep on this amulet. It'll take a while, but trust me, it is worth it. So that's all of the amulets covered. Let's actually talk about the macro. So we're gonna go over my macro and how I make 7 trillion honey an hour. So first, I have it gathering in the pine tree forest with the pattern-shaped kettle, which will be in the description. You're going to want this pattern. This is a great pattern. It also picks up digital bee tokens if you have digital bee, which is toggleable, which means you can turn it on and off. Length is set to medium, width is set to 4, 10 minutes for backpack to 95%, because if it's at 100%, sometimes it'll stay in the field longer than you want it to. Sprinkler location is in the upper left with distance as 7. Back to hive is set to reset. Rotate the camera 4 and to the right. Gather with shift lock turned on, and drift composition. For collect, we just have tickets, Mondo, and Honeystorm. My Mondo is set for buff for only 30 seconds, and Honeystorm is only here for Beesmas. If Beesmas is active, definitely turn some of these on, but do not turn allow gather interrupts. That'll take you out of the field you're in and go do these, which definitely hinders your pollen. For dispensers, the only ones I would recommend is glue and robopass. For kill, I keep nothing on. For boost, I do enzymes, and it's turned off right now because of honey days, but I also do blue extracts. This helps you convert and make a lot more pollen. But if you can't afford this, that's perfectly fine. For quests, polar bear is currently broken because of the new update, but if it wasn't broken and macros get updated, then definitely enable this and do not enable gather interrupts. For planters, here's how I have mine. I have everything to 90%, harvest every 1 hour, gather field nectar sipping does hinder your pollen just a little bit, but I keep it on to help my nectar stay in full. My allowed planters is candy, tacky, pesticide, heat treated, hydro, petal, and planter of plenty if you have it. And these are all the fields that my planters work in. Gather planter loot, make sure to turn that on. Bee swarm broke again. That's great. Anyways, we're just gonna ignore that. For status, we're going to not set up any of this. If you do have Discord integration, you can set that up, but if you don't really care about that, then you don't have to. I would highly recommend it though. It shows you your hourly honey and everything. For settings, this is everything I pick. Make sure you set your movement speed correctly with movement speed correction. Make sure your move method is set to cannon, supreme saturator, and convert balloon is set to gather. Multiple resets set to 0. Gather double reset, turn that on. Put your private server link right here and make sure it's set to deep link. And turn on fallback to public servers, so even if your private server is full or something or shut down, it'll go right back to a public server and keep macroing. Hive slot, make sure you just click the hive slot that you're going to be using and make sure you say it has 50 bees and to wait 0 seconds after convert. Miscellaneous, you can look at these if you want, but you don't really need these. And here's the credits to all the developers. Great job on the macro. All right, now the bee swarm is back up. Let's talk about Beequips. Beequips are so important whenever you're trying to make a ton of honey macroing. Let's go over the Beequips I use, which aren't the perfect Beequips, but these are the Beequips that I prefer. First off, I would do 2 pine cones with good stats. My pine cones don't have the best stats, but they're okay. Next, 2 elf caps, 1 snow tiara with good blue field capacity, a Beesmas top tree hat with good convert rate or hive, a Shamnar's lip balm for bubble pollen, 2 Beesmas tree hats with good critical power, and a candy ring with honey at hive and honey per Q. Those are the Beequips that I use, but a toy drum with haste and bee ability pollen is also really, really good. Paperclip with token lifespan is also pretty good. And before we end off the video, let's end off with some tips. Mutations are super important. If you can get convert amount percentage on every single bee, you'll be converting so much faster than if you didn't have those. Next off, if you want to make the most honey while macroing, also redeem your sticker stack. This can increase capacity and pollen by a huge margin. And really the only thing I have to say is macro with friends. Get 2 to 3 extra people on your server while you're macroing and you will make so much more. Consistently keep all 5 nectars. You need all 5 of them and you'll be rolling in honey. But that's most of the tips I can give. The rest of it is just playing the game, increasing your amulets, increasing your bees, and you'll be making so much honey. I tried to make this quick, but I hope you enjoyed the video. So if you did, make sure to hit that like button. And if you like what you saw, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.